I've talked to some financial advisors that I had a meeting with one. The first thing he said was, well, I believe in you scratching my back and then I'll scratch your back. Okay, well, I'll scratch your back whenever I have the opportunity, right? But you also just told me that the only value you're seeking is just me sending you clients, right? And that's not a great value prop at the end of the day, all the time,
You
right?
said that, Sam?
Yeah,
Nice.
100%.
How many of you loan officers have been invited by a relatively prominent, maybe not even relatively, prominent coach in the mortgage business to come to their event in Las Vegas because you have something to share? You have a secret sauce. You have a strategy that this prominent coach wants you to come and talk about at his event. That was a rhetorical question because I assume the answer for most of you is, damn, that's pretty cool. And that's exactly what today's Loan Officer Spotlight is going to talk about. Many of you know David Luxton. We bring him on the show. He's with Michael Galani's branch. And I know he has been taught from Galani, but more specifically is using what he's taught and executing it at a very high level. And David, when I saw that email from Scott Groves, by the way, I was tickled. I was happy for you. I was like, "Wow, this is cool." Because not only did he invite him, he offered to pay for his travel to come out there, which is cool, man. I mean, you should be proud of yourself and you should embrace it. And so I'm looking forward to sharing this today. So welcome to the podcast, David Luxton. But before we get to that, let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you came up in the business, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So first off, Jeff, thanks for having me on. I love being able to share what I do with as many people as possible. Um, my name is David Luxton. I'm with USA Mortgage. I am a leading loan officer here, President's Club member. Been moving my way up the fun ladder as it's been in the short 4 years I've been doing this business. My background before I got into this is I was a teacher. I did that for about 8 years, which I think lends to a lot of how I conduct my business and how I work with my referral partners and clients. I also come from a background of a family who they worked their way up the corporate ladder. My parents both started at SBC Global and they were in a call center and they worked their way up the corporate chain to where, my parents were having regular meetings with the executives and heads of big departments and teams. And I got the luxury of growing up on the meeting room floor during the summers. I joke all the time. I got to watch Bush Stadium being built from my dad's corner office,
That's
you
cool. That's
know.
cool.
A lot of my background has built me up to this type of work, and it lends really well to it. And just um, the way that I'm doing business and the way I'm doing things now, which is new. We've only been doing this for about a year, has been absolutely life changing, and I enjoy the business much more now. Not that I didn't enjoy the business before. I did enjoy the business, but I'm finding that I like this even more. It's more joyful. There's always stress in this business, but it feels like the people I'm working with now understand a bit more, receive the stress, understand how we do things, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and we're growing. We're growing a team. We just hired another team member the other day, and we're going to be hiring more, and it's awesome. That's one of the reasons I got into this world is I want to provide opportunity to others beyond just myself. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And I want to point out, bring to light something that you said, which was you like to share.
Yeah.
And there is such a scarcity in our business. Loan officers, real estate agents, salespeople in general, like they have some secret that they can't share with anybody. Dude, I love that you said that because I want more people to hear that. You think you have a secret, to those of you maybe listening to this. You don't. There's no secrets. And I believe in karma. I believe in sharing. And the truth is, David, you probably know this. So I'm going to remind you. You're going to share your quote unquote secrets today.
Yep.
Nobody's got the discipline and the wherewithal to do it the way you're doing it. And so,
Right.
and that's why you're willing to share. You're not afraid. And plus, there's enough business to go around.
Yeah.
And so good things happen to those that share. So I love to hear this, man. Teaching background, that's awesome. What specifically, what grades or what level did you teach?
I was a band director. My first year in teaching, I taught in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, called El Dorado Springs. And I had a band of 14. And my big goal, I taught grade school to high school for that. And my big goal with that program out there was to reestablish their recruiting program. Because due to some backdoor politics, that was removed before I got there, and I completed that goal essentially. And I remember, and this is not a dig at the previous band director who was there. Not that he'll ever probably ever watch this, but the previous band director that was there was an older veteran. And I remember whenever I got the position, I came in and I met with him to kind of create a smooth handoff, all that type of stuff. And I remember one of the first things he said was, "These kids will never play above a 1.5, 2 grade level." Just so you know what that means in the world of band director, if you're a high school band director, a, a 1.5, 2 grade is middle school level type stuff, like seventh, eighth grade level type stuff. Um, which I just refuse to believe that. I think whenever you set the bar high, students will achieve your expectations. And that's exactly what they did. In the marching season, we finished first in our class, first in finals. There's actually a photo that you can find online of me getting my head shaved because that was their reward for that. Yeah. And then there also on the competition side, we got on the wind band competition side, we got fantastic remarks, and they played a grade 3 level, which is very good high school level playing. And so it was a lot of fun. And then shortly after that, I got moved to Carthage, Missouri, at a much bigger school. The band directors figured out who I was. They were impressed with what I was doing. And so someone dropped me a line and said, "Hey, you should go apply there." I did that. And I was there for about 6 or 7 years. And I was the head of the high school. I say the head of the high school. I was the assistant to the high school band director, head of the woodwind department, because I'm a saxophonist. And so same thing there. I took these kids and created these high opportunities. I had kids who made state band, kids who went to much more impressive colleges than where I went to for music. I went to Missouri State, which I went there because I knew the name of the professor there and I wanted to learn from him. And it's just amazing what they do whenever you set up the challenges for them and you give them the right motivation and encouragement. They will exceed your expectations every time. So yeah, that
Love
was
that.
that was my background in teaching. It was great.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the natural segue into the mortgage business.
Yeah, so actually, so right about the time going into this would have been 2020 and the crazy COVID stuff starting to happen and things like that. My wife said, "Hey, I want to start a family." And I looked at my 40K a year salary and the fact that my wife wanted to work less and enjoy being a mom, and said, "There's absolutely no way to do this." So because of that being the case, I said, "All right, so my only other option here is to look into a different career field." And so I talked to my parents, which my dad, having a lot of connections at what is now AT&T, was like, "Hey, I can probably get you in somewhere over there." And I was like, I don't really want to do that. I would like to grow something. I don't want a phone call just made type of thing. Uh, and so I was looking into actually being a financial advisor at one time. And then I remembered my eldest sister She was an underwriter, and at the time she was working at USA Mortgage as a branch manager. And she called me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to?" She's my half sister. "Hey, remember this is available." So I did some research, and I went, "Actually, I think I could be very good at this." And so then I took my test, got here, and the rest is history. So.
Interesting. Interesting. And so, how did you find your way to Michael?
So we had previously so my whole like past I tell people my past 4 years of being a mortgage lender, I've learned in about 4 years that most people will learn in about 15 years of business. So Michael and my sister were business partners at the time, and I was working in Southwest Missouri, taking agents out to lunch every day, spending money I really didn't have to try to make this work, hosting these lunch and learns, all this type of stuff. And keeping in mind, this was like middle to end of 2020 that I started this. I believe I was officially a loan officer in December of 2020.
Wow.
So, and so while all this was going on, I also had no sphere of influence down there because I'm from Union, Missouri. I know people in the St. Louis area and stuff like that. So I'm down in Southwest Missouri where I know no one. And I'm just trying to figure out how to make this work. So while everyone else is just like making it rain, so to speak, because everyone and their mother wants to get a mortgage, I don't know anyone, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it rain, right? Which at first I was thinking, man, this is like, am I doing something wrong or whatever? But now I look back and I count it as a blessing because I think it taught me the work ethic that I needed to have, especially for the current market that we're in. So I never got lazy because of that, because I was always working uphill, right? So then after just working my tail off, Michael heard about all the work I was doing. I would reach out to Michael constantly. I just connected really well with him in terms of business philosophy and how to do things. And so I would call him all the time for ideas, make sure the things I was doing was worth my while and all that type of stuff. And so at the time, we had a relationship with a large brokerage franchise up here in St. Louis as an MSA. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to come work this office? It's a very tough office." He was honest with me. He was like, "It's a very tough office. You're going against a guy who's been in there for 15 years, and the guy worked at Stiefel now, but he's pretty much had a lockdown on that office for the last 15 years from whenever he was the in-house lender like 10, 15 years ago." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, it's got to be better than what I'm doing right now." Right. So I got to work in that office, and it was a lot of hard work. I would literally and my wife stayed in Carthage, by the way. My wife stayed in Carthage. And so I moved up here, and I was sleeping in my friend's house on their guest bedroom that was actually a guest bedroom for another friend of ours who does private defense contracting. And so whenever that guy came home, I was sleeping on the basement floor on an air mattress.
Gosh.
Um, yeah, so I would get up really early. I'd be in the office. I was always one of the first ones in the office, last ones to leave. Whenever I left, I would go DoorDash after that for money. And so just pulling these insane work hours and just trying to figure out what is my value, how do I do things. Very quickly, within less than a year, became the second highest producer in that relationship. Just working my tail off and just having the right attitude about how I was doing things. And then that relationship fell apart. As all good things do, they eventually fall apart, right? So in 2022, the MSA was dissolved. That went away. We all had a bunch of choices to make. A lot of people left the company. A lot of people stayed with the company. I chose to stay with the company, obviously. And then I actually found that not working in an MSA was really good for me, because at an MSA, you're kind of chained to the desk that you're working at,
Yeah.
right? So this was not that I want to say that MSAs are bad, because they're not bad, but it gave me a different perspective of how to do business, which I think was very good for me. And then after that fell apart, Mike and my sister, his business partner at the time, they dissolved their branch and created two separate branches. And at that time, I made a business decision and said, I'm going to go work with Michael just because the way Michael does business and his business philosophy speaks to me a lot more. And that's how I got to where I am today.
Interesting. I won't ask you any questions about what that did to the family dynamic because that's probably too personal.
Thanksgiving's kind of awkward. It's a
I'll,
little
I'll leave it.
awkward.
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. Okay, so fascinating, and I think powerful in so many different rights. And I agree with you. Like it's there's not one way to skin a cat, right? And so an MSA for some is the greatest thing, and for others it's not. And so it's not there's no one way to do business. And so now you've evolved and in a short amount of time had a lot of great experiences. Before you get into the whole financial planner thing, though, what would you say is probably one of the single best pieces of advice that you can give to someone who's either newer to the business or struggling that was a catalyst to maybe the cornerstone to your success?
So every person that I meet, whether it's another loan officer, it's a real estate agent, it could be a new financial advisor, it could be whatever. The first thing I tell them to do is go read the book, The Go Giver. Um, if there's anything that came out of that relationship, that MSA relationship that I truly am appreciative about, it was I didn't know what that book was until they did a training for their agents that I attended. And the speaker talked about that book. And I went and picked up the book. I listened to the audiobook because I don't have the attention span to actually read a book. And so I listened to the audiobook. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes. It's phenomenal. And if you listen to it at 1.25 or 1.5 times, it's less than 2 hours. And so that book taught me what I would call good business, okay? A business of actual relationships. And the most important thing it taught me was what I consider if anyone talks to me about business and they go, hey, what is your business like? How do you do things? My entire business is based off of one very important law, and that's the law of reciprocity. The more value I bring you, the more I can ask for value in return and should expect to receive value in return. And so, what I have done over these past year to year and a half is I actually assessed my business, especially post MSA agreement, right? And I realized 90% of the relationships, and I'm going to put quotes up because relationships that I had were actually just bought, right? And many of those people stopped picking up the phone the minute the MSA was gone, right? So then I went, well, that's very vain and that's very unfun. And this business is way too difficult to have vain relationships, right? So I went out to find those people, whether it was agents or people in other fields that I could create those real relationships with, and they agree with that law of reciprocity. And that is the thing I bring up at every first meeting with whether it's a real estate agent, a financial advisor, a roofer who I talked to not too long ago. I believe in this law, and if I'm bringing you value, I expect value in return. And that's how we're all going to be able to coexist for one. But we're also not going to get resentful and we're going to be happy, right?
Mhm.
And then we build the relationship blocks from there. Then I want to know you personally. Then I want to know about your kids. Then I want to know about all this stuff.
That's powerful, especially from somebody who doesn't come from a lot of experience. Because the relationship that a lot of loan officers have with realtors is not one of reciprocity. It's one of give, 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 right? I
Yeah.
expect, or here, give me your credit card,
Yeah.
and I'll decide how this relationship's going to
Or,
go.
or take on the other side. There's a lot of
100%.
loan officers that all they know how to do is say, send me your next client, send me your next
Yeah.
client, send me your next client. They don't
Yeah.
know how to provide the value first. I say this a lot to loan officers who ask me how I do things. I tell them, listen, would you expect the bank to pay you interest on your money before you deposited it? Right?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense
Right.
whenever you think about it, right? So not that you should go deposit your money with a real estate agent. I don't believe in building relationships on lead spends and all that type of stuff. But find out what their pain points are, find out what their value search needs to be, right? And after you figure out what that value is that they need, fill the value, actually execute it, which is the hardest part that most loan officers have. And then after you execute it, go, hey, I did everything you told me to do or told me was your pain points. Now you can ask for the business. You have the right to say, hey, where's my reciprocity? Right? And go from there.
Yeah, love it, man. I love it. Which is great. Most LOs need to hear this and apply it and have, I guess the one follow-up question to that, how do you, because I think the biggest hurdle that a loan officer typically has is that fear that they're going to get shunned, that they're going to be told to go fly a kite because they basically stand up to their real estate agents, their referral partners. How do you overcome that?
There's 1.5 million real estate agents out there. Like I'm just being honest, right? And same thing for financial advisors. I've talked to some financial advisors that I had a meeting with one not long ago. This was probably about a month or two ago, and the first thing he said was well, I believe in you scratching my back, and then I'll scratch your back. Okay, well, I'll scratch your back whenever I have the opportunity, right? But you also just told me that the only value you're seeking is just me sending you clients, right? And that's not a great value prop at the end of the day, all the time,
You
right?
said that, Sam?
Yeah,
Nice.
100%,
Nice.
And then so this is not going to always be a good fit, right? And then they go back and forth and they hem haw around, right? Because they can't believe someone just said that to them most of the time.
Called their
Um,
BS, man.
right, especially whenever they're older, because I'm 33 years old, right? So this guy who's got to be 50 something at least, older than me, right, is seeing this young 33-year-old who's going, well, listen, man, I'm 33 years old. I'm trying to find the value prop where I can help you, and then we can share business. You've got a lot bigger book than I do, but whenever I have the clients, I'll share them with you. Then whenever he him haws around about that, and he can't believe that a loan officer just said this to him, right? It'll be one, and I haven't talked to that guy since. It's probably not going to be a good fit, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to find the people that whenever you say, hey, how can I help you? They respond with, how can I help you? That's what the
Yeah.
law of
Amen.
reciprocity is, right? Not immediately, well, how are you going to help me? Those are that's that's going to be that's a
Yep.
beggar's relationship, right?
Yep.
Whenever you open that door.
Yeah, not only is it not healthy, it's not sustainable, and you're going to find yourself miserable if that's how you carry yourself forward in your career. Now, I think that's a perfect segue to now what you're doing. And
Right.
so again, I let in with this. You're being invited out to Vegas to talk about this. So what is this that Scott was so excited to invite you out to Vegas for?
So I shifted my business roughly about a year ago to primarily focusing on financial advisors and financial planners and just other people who are in financial industry. That could be certain types of attorneys and things like that. But the financial advisors and planners is the primary focus these days. And it's because we can fit a major problem that they don't have and they don't even realize it. On top of that, they they don't really like loan officers, which is awesome because 90% of loan officers these days are car salesmen.
Hmm.
And they provide a very low value point. So whenever you find how to provide value to them and you think like them, financial advisors like how I think. And so whenever you think like them and how you can help fix their problems, which is what our job is, right? Our job is fixing problems. That's what we said before we even started this podcast. First thing I said to you was I'm fixing problems, right?
Hmm.
If you're not fixing problems, you're not in business, right?
Yeah.
And so I figured out how I can fix some of their problems and help them grow their business from there. And that's what we've been doing. And it has been paid tenfold um, in how we've been doing this. And it's even created the opportunity where I still work with real estate agents. The nice thing is the real estate agents that I'm working with now are connected to me through the advisor. most of the time. And so there's a strong relationship there because this person who many people put on a pedestal, which are advisors, right? Which, by the way, they're just people, guys. You should talk to them sometimes. They're not that intimidating. Um, they're connecting you with someone that you're creating a small little networking chain then as well, right? And it creates a good ecosystem amongst everyone.
I love that. You just got me thinking about that too, because when I was an originator, my biggest referral source was a friend of mine with Moneta Group. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
familiar with Moneta, but
Yeah, I'm working with a
um,
guy with Moneta now.
dude, in hindsight, that was the greatest relationship because unlike real estate agents, their expectation was just take really good care of my clients, so it's a strong
Hmm.
representation of me.
Right.
And it was never give me back, especially Moneta, because they're like at least my group was it was like
They
2
want
million net
very
worth.
specific, they want
Yes.
very specific clients, and they will tell
Oh,
you that.
yes,
They
yes.
they will go, if you're not going to send me a client that's like this, just don't send me a client.
Yeah, yeah. And that was never his expectation. And it
Mhm.
was such a strong relationship, still exists. I passed it off to who took over the person who took over my business. But man, what a great relationship. And that's really what it all came down to. It boiled down to just really, really good customer service, which I hope
Right.
you're all doing that anyway. But yeah, dude, that's a good reminder. I totally forgot about that because we get so hyper focused on real estate agents that we forget that there's so many other opportunities out there.
Right. And the relationship is comparatively, right? And probably any real estate agent who likes this is probably going to hate me after this, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is that the relationship comparatively is a lot more loyal in my experience.
Yeah.
You know, I have plenty of agents that I work with who I would say are very loyal to me, and that's awesome. That's what you want in a business relationship, right? You but you know as well as I do, there's many agents that's all about who has the newest, shiniest thing, right? And if it's something that you say, well, this underwriting guideline makes it an issue, they're picking up the phone and calling immediately another loan officer within 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? That's not treating you as a loyal business partner, right? That's treating you as just another commodity to be passed on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So whenever you're working with a financial advisor and planner, they don't want a bunch of people to work with. They want to build trust with one person who's going to make them look really good. That's all they care about. And they want that whenever they call you and they go, "Hey, I need some advice for XYZ client," you're going to tell them the truth. You're not worried about getting paid. Let me say that again. You're not worried about getting paid, which is why they believe most loan officers are car salesmen because they'll say whatever they need to get another loan, right?
Yeah.
There are plenty of phone conversations I've had with the various financial advisors that I work with where the conversation ends with, "Yeah, I don't think I'm the one to help them, but I know someone who can fit that need. So let me make
Yeah.
that connection."
Yeah.
And that will hold your weight in gold with them all day.
And I don't know about you, but my experience was there's not a lot of rate sensitivity there either. Not that, yeah, obviously it does matter, but they are more interested in the experience for the consumer because ultimately, whether rates are, between 6 and 7% or 2 and 3%, at the end of the day, a quarter, an eighth, even a half isn't
Hmm.
necessarily a huge deal because they know they're going to earn more, which is why
Right.
they are advised. And by the way, most good financial advisors are advising their clients to maintain a mortgage even at 7% because they're going to
Correct.
get a higher yield in the market than they're going to get by
Correct.
paying off their mortgage.
Correct. All of that is correct. And you will still get clients. I mean, you're going to get clients who are rate sensitive no matter who
Of
they come from,
course. Yeah.
right? I had one of my advisors that I've been working with for about 8 months now. He runs a small firm here in St. Louis, and he sent me, I think, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, or over the past 2 weeks, about three different clients. One of them was rate sensitive, but the other two were not as rate sensitive, and even one of them, whenever um, the client was moving to a different state, where it was referred to us, random real estate agent out there, random real estate agent says, "Hey, check with my lender," right? Well, of course, their lender undercuts us, right? Because she got our quote first. And then I told her, I said, hey, listen, we can adjust our margins to here, but the reason you're working with us is because Jeff said that we're the right fit and we're going to take care of you long term. And so either you agree with that or $37 a month is too much of a difference for you, you know? And she came back to us and responded indefinitely, CC'd the agent. I am using the loan officer that my financial advisor recommends. I do not care to work with yours. Please tell him to
Yeah.
stop calling me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's
it,
wild, isn't it?
it's crazy. It's crazy. And in building that relationship, it's fun, at least for me. I'm a nerd person. I spend a lot of time. I love understanding markets. And so I spend a lot of time looking at MBS Live and reading articles and, watching CNBC and all that type of stuff. And so whenever I call and talk to these advisors, I get to talk about something that they like to talk about. And it's fun. It's a fun conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they understand it and they comprehend it extremely well. Whenever things go sideways in a deal, right, as well, especially whenever it's stuff out of our control, they tend to react a lot more calmly. They go, oh, yeah, we get it, because their whole world is insanely regulated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they get it whenever you talk to them about this. Hey, we can't do this, this, and this because the title came back with this, so this has to get done. Okay, yeah. So what does that mean? And the closing's just going to get pushed a week. Okay. Advisor doesn't care.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
sounds good.
man. That's refreshing, isn't it?
It is, it is. And once again, it's one of these things that, you know, uh, we all want to close on time. We all want to take care of the client, give a high customer service, right? But they tend to react less emotionally most of the time
Yeah.
and go, okay, that's fine. All right. So there's a way to get to the end. Yep, there's a way to get to the end. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Also, they're not, I hate to say this, but a lot of real estate agents' livelihood depends on that one deal.
Yes,
And it's not the case with a financial advisor.
right. Because they have the book, right? So as long as you're not doing something to disturb the book, that they don't care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now that's the one thing that I say all the time to people who want to get into financial advisors, and I've said this to agents before. Oddly enough, there's a financial advisor who referred me a client buying out in Kansas City. I don't do a lot of business in Kansas City. I'm going to start to, but I got connected to a real estate agent out there, and I told that real estate agent, I did a call with her, and I said, hey, I need you to give white glove service to this client. I need you to take really, really good care of him. And you could tell she was almost offended that a loan officer said that to her, right? Because it's usually the other way around, right? And I said, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be arrogant here, but this is a referral from one of my financial advisors who I get a lot of business from. If this client gets pissed off and I told the client that it sounds like you're a good agent, and then that client gets pissed off at me, and then that client goes complains to his advisor, you've lost me a very key relationship in my business forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is one of those things that whenever you're taking care of their clients, the last thing you want to do is overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. Amen. So, this conversation's been rich. I want you to, one last piece of advice is, what about the approach?
So the approach to financial advisors, you can if you search enough on Google, you'll find Amir Syed talk about just cold calling them like crazy. And he's got a whole script for it, and you could do that. That might work for you. But honestly, getting personal introductions to them goes really far. So the way I got started in my personal introductions to them is through my suit guy. So my suit guy primarily works with advisors and lawyers, which makes
Hmm.
sense. He sells custom made suits. And so when I found out that 35% of his business is with financial advisors, a minimum of 35%, I said, hey, can you connect me with one who you think kind of fits my personality? And that's where it started, right? And now every time I talk to him, yes, I buy another suit, but also I get another advisor to connect to, right? And I've expanded that network as well. I have real estate agents that I work with now, Jeff, that they've connected me with advisors because the value prop that we have for advisors is a lot more than what a real estate agent has, right? A
Yeah.
real estate agent's going to go, hey, I can help your client sell or buy a house whenever they need one, right?
Yeah.
We let me do equity reviews, cash flow reviews, let me look at do they need to make a pension out of their house? Let's talk about the long-term investment. Do they need to get some cash out to put into your account, right? Whatever that stuff is. I had one advisor just not long ago uh, that we cashed out, refinanced their house because the client was she's retired and she's burning through money and she was like her account dipped under 2 million and she just couldn't believe it dipped under 2 million. So we cash out, refinanced her house, paid off all her debt and got 500,000 to put back in the market. You know, the advisor is outperforming the market anyways,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
is outperforming a 7% interest rate all day. You
Yep.
know, so so to get in front of them, I would recommend asking people that you know to connect you to them. I would be mindful about where the advisors work. So it's going to be a lot harder to get business from advisors who work at places that are connected to depositories, right? So
Yeah.
U.S. bank investments, I was going to say Wells Fargo investments, but since they shut down their mortgage arm, that doesn't matter. Um, Bank of America, that type of stuff, right?
Like a Stiefel. They have their own
Yeah,
mortgage department. Yeah.
oddly enough, I get business from Stifel.
Really?
Yes, because Stifel advisors are afraid of the in-house lender messing up.
Interesting.
So they will sometimes send you business because they're more fearful of the in-house lender making a mistake and losing the client permanently versus you making a mistake and they can blame it on you, right?
Wow.
But Stiefel is a tougher one. You want to go after places like Edward Jones, LPL Financial, Prudential Financial, AmeriQuest, I think, is another one, or Ameriprise. Ameriprise is another one. So you want to go for Thrivent. I work with one from Thrivent.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Laura Reiminger, who told me that she connected with one at Thrivent, and I went, wait, I know someone at Thrivent. So any of those places that don't have a banking arm are going to be where you can connect with them. And the value pitch to them, and I use the same script every time, so write it down and steal it. Um, what I tell them is, I go, listen, I know you as a financial advisor, every client is a financial jigsaw puzzle, right? I want to be the piece of that jigsaw puzzle, one of the biggest pieces of that jigsaw puzzle that you don't always get to focus on as much, which is their largest hard asset that they'll ever own. I want to fit that piece of that jigsaw puzzle for you, right? And so whenever you fit that piece of the jigsaw puzzle for them, and they can call you for advice and they can call you for market updates and they can call you for all the stuff, which by the way, if you're not a member of MBS Live, they love MBS Live weekly updates.
Mm.
They think those articles are the coolest things ever. You can show them Mortgage Coach. You can show them debt consolidation options through MBS Highway. Whenever you put all that together, they're extremely impressed with how your knowledge and the way you're going to take care of their clients, and they're going to make you the piece of that puzzle that they want. And whenever I say that to the advisors, I just said this last week to one who I was given her number by a real estate agent, by the way. And I called her up and I explained that. She went, well, listen, I'm about to retire and give my entire book of business to my son, but I want you to talk to him. And then she followed it by, why are you not a financial advisor? Because you're thinking like they think,
Yeah.
right? And so whenever you think like they think and you're able to say those things, they're extremely impressed with you and they're not going to go anywhere else.
Amen. Yeah, it's also a testimony right there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, well, and I tell them, I go, listen, I was being brought up to do your type of business, I was kind of trained that way, so I have a little bit of leeway, but it's not anything that you can't learn as a loan
Yeah.
officer by any means. And if you're trying to figure out where to learn, I will say it all day, go subscribe to MBS Live and start reading through Matt Graham's articles about understanding markets and all that type of stuff, and you'll be an expert in a month.
I love it. David, this has been rich. It's awesome. I love to hear your success, and I hope others can take something from it. If somebody wants to connect with you and pick your brain, learn from you, what's the best way to do so?
Email me because my phone blows up all the time. So if you're part of USA Mortgage, just Teams me if you want to, but email me, dluxton at usa-mortgage.com. I, I'm willing to give you whatever you want because I know that 90% of the people who listen to this, 95% of the people who listen to this will do nothing with it, right?
Hmm.
So it really I'm just like, here you go, right? And if anyone takes it and they become successful out of it, that's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
The ocean is big enough. So let's all go fishing.
Amen. That's a breath of fresh air as well, brother. I appreciate you. It's been a fun conversation. Cheers to continued success. I know you're going to continue to kill it, man. Your work ethic speaks for itself. No matter what the industry throws at you, it's clear that you can handle a curveball. So, David, wish you the best, man. Look forward to staying in touch, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks, brother. Have a good rest of your day. See you, Jeff.